welcome to the Book Over, a little book club where we talk about books, especially the ones that give us book hangovers. I'm Sarah, and with me is Megan.
Hello, everybody.
Today we are talking about Princes of Chaos by Angel Lawson and Samantha Rue. It's number 7 in the Royals.
Of Forsyth.
There we go.
Yes.
Yes. So
and the start of a new trilogy.
Dukes, and now we're into the princes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Before we start, spoiler alert, we are talking about the book.
Mm-hmm. Getting into it.
We're getting into it. And then B, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this. This series is a darker series. And so if you are watching this, even though we're talking about the book and you haven't read the book, make sure you know about the book before you read the book, because it might not be your cup of tea. There's a reason that the ARC team switched up a little bit. There's a reason that there's trigger warnings. So there's things that happen that not everybody is going to be okay with reading, or that it happened. And so there's no shame in loving it, and there's no shame in not liking it, but just don't read it if it's not your thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well said. Yeah. Well, I feel like if you made it this far in Royals, you're probably with it, but I feel like this isn't everybody's. It's interesting. It's some people really wanted princes, and some people were like, I don't know if that's for me. So
I went in blind. And it's funny because I'm thinking about the lords, and I'm thinking about the dukes, and each group is so different, but they're so dark, and these people are not nice people, and we have to go through this journey to get to the good-ish, right? To the, like, we're gonna be okay, we're gonna be a family unit, or whatever the goal is, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like you said before I started Lords, Megan goes, if you can get through, was it the first chapter, or is it
the prologue? It was the prologue.
If you can get through the prologue, you're going to enjoy the book. And I was fine with the prologue. So, and I loved the book. And I know people had issues with things through that whole, with all of them. But again, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. I never read the breeding trope before. I have to say, I don't hate it. I mean, I don't think it's going to be one of those things where I'm like actively out there looking for it, but I'm not going to turn it down if it's something in a book.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't hate this.
I feel like when I've read it in the past, it's been like more in like maybe in RH where it's like one character is really obsessed with it, as opposed to like the whole book being about it. This is definitely done in a very unique way, which I enjoy. Okay, and this might be a hot take, but like I like to compare, the different trios, the different series, and I was like, okay, they didn't. Okay, so her scene, the throning.
Oh gosh, yeah.
The throning was a lot, but I was like, is it as bad as what happened to the other two girls? I was like, it isn't, because she signed, I know this is some bizarre thinking, but she signed this covenant, and she kind of went in there knowing what was going to happen, to a point where I felt like, and it was kind of taken because it was the procedure. It's not like the guys actively chose to do this all on their own. It's like they were thrown into it too. I felt like it wasn't as bad.
Me too.
To me, like it was more just, like it wasn't.
I felt Lavinia's story to me was way worse, because that was, but I don't know I forget what you call it. That first scene with Lavinia and the Dukes, before we know it's the Dukes, right? Well, we kind of know. Okay, anyways, that scene, she basically, I think she's like, says okay because she has to say okay, right?
Yeah.
But that to me was worse, because Verity went into it knowing that she didn't know how like her virginity was going to go, but she knew it was going to happen. I mean, I feel like there could have been a gentler way doing this.
Yeah.
It shows how cutthroat this world is. And the thing
Yeah.
is I really like how, because we all have this like we all think that the princes are these like clean cut, super sweet, like dote on the girl stuff. And maybe the
Mhm.
other princes were, but
Mhm.
I was wowed with how much they weren't. And I know that they were trying to push them to, but these princes don't want to be princes.
Mm-mm.
Verity's there because of other reasons, right? It's not because she wants to be princess. There's more behind it.
Mhm.
And then like the king is awful, awful person. And then you have like the scheduling. Like I was like the whole time I was reading this, I was thinking about the scene where Story and Dimitri go into the palace and um
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about how they saw them all in the shared bed, the princess with the princes all in there. And I go, is that even a, like, I was kind of like hoping for something like that. Like, I've been waiting for them and I'm thinking this might come soon.
Mhm.
Well, not, well, there's so much. Okay. For them to do that, there's this huge bed, and I'm like, when are they gonna say screw the schedule? When are these princes gonna
Yeah.
reach their breaking point where they go, fuck this? Like, why aren't they saying, you know what, Wicker, like you can, like I'll let you have her day, but you just can't interrupt us. Like I still get my time, but like if it's a free moment and no one wants her, you can go. You know what I mean? Because Wicker needs that. So like
Yeah.
I was kind of
And
interested that they're like so scheduled.
I think they're so I think they're because they grew up with that father, I think they just don't know how to get out of that. Like,
Yeah.
and you could tell that they were trying to prep to get away from him, but they weren't quite there yet. I think something I really like about these guys is, I mean, and they all have their damage and stuff in the past, but it's different because they all are adopted by the same father and they were all suffering the same childhood abuse. And I think these guys are closer than any of the other guys because
Hmm.
of their circumstances.
Hmm.
And I don't know, it made me like these guys more and see their perspective more
Yes.
than I had before.
Yes.
So I think the trauma and the abuse that they've endured, and then it being like, royals, and it's just in general, it's like a crappy world for the characters. I think that I think they don't know how to get out from him. I think like something major is gonna have to happen. Like I'm predicting like maybe something with Ashby and Verity in the future, maybe in the second book, will be the thing that pushes them in the third book to like defeat him. um but yeah, they did say that she had like a really big bed, and it was ironic that the three of them were sharing one bed. The three guys were sharing a bed
A
that was
double,
small.
and yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we're definitely like going to get there, I feel like. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. And you well said
Yeah.
what you said, because I feel the same way. I felt like, and I felt like I understood them because of what
Hmm.
we saw, and I felt for them. And I have this anxiety in me now because, um, they're a mischief, like they said, right? Together, they're
Hmm.
this like family of rats, and like they're all about their brothers and the loyalty. And I'm like, how I cannot figure out, and this is great that I
Hmm.
can't figure this out, by the way, so this is not a bad thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
um how Verity is going to become one of them. Like that's
Hmm.
my thing, is like they're so close knit already that I'm like, how are they going to love her and accept her and bring her into it? How is this going to happen?
It's
I like,
especially where we're at now, because I feel like they were starting to get there.
yeah, but then
And
it all
then
went south, Megan. I was loving it. I was so proud of them. I was like, okay,
me
like
too.
we were getting these little things, little, like you guys, these
Mhm.
little moments, like her and Wicker and him sharing, and them like finally like facing each other during the act, and like
Mhm.
Pace, finally not just edging her, and like having these moments, and then Lex
And
even
let.
like, and like her figuring
Mhm.
out Lex in his sleep and what to say to him and how to coax him and how to treat him. And I was like, this is amazing. We're getting this early on. I was so excited. I'm like, we're not having to wait
Yeah,
till book 2 or 3. We're getting this. And then
it was nice.
boom. No, we're not. And that totally makes sense,
Mhm.
right? We
Yeah.
knew we knew that this loyalty thing, that was gonna be an issue.
Yeah. I'm kind of a part of me is glad that it happened in the first book, because if it would have dragged to the second book, I mean, I think we would have had more anxiety about it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it still hurts. It still stings. Like, and that's the thing with this series is we know we're gonna get those, like
Yes.
the betrayal moment, and then they have to like. So I'm hoping that they come together in book two. They get over it. The question is her being, and I had guessed this from the first book. I mean, not from the first book, from Dukes. I thought that she was Ashby's biological daughter from just one of the scenes in Dukes. And at the end, I was so vindicated. I'm like, it may have took till the chapter, but vision. Um, with her being Ashby's daughter, to at first make them hate her more because they hate their father,
Mhm.
or is that going to make them see her as more like kin and part of what we all have? They all have this awful non-biological
Mhm.
father.
Well,
Um,
I was
so
wondering if because of
what's that
what
going to
she
do?
did at the Valentine's party, if they go,
Hmm.
"Oh, she's got balls. She has the lady ovaries to fight against this, that maybe she's somebody we do want on our side." But the trust isn't there. So I'm also like, how are they going to get the trust? And I'm worried that they might get mad that she's biologically with from Ashby. And like, who was that Duke that they killed? Is it Cal? Was his name Cal? The head that he was the king, and then
It wasn't
I can't remember his
the
name. And I'm sorry, I
the the
can't.
the one that was branding girls,
Yes. No,
that
like the
hurt her.
king that Sai killed to become
Oh,
king.
oh, the one that Sai killed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I know this.
Right.
Um, starts with an
Okay.
S. It starts with
Um,
an S.
I was like, is he
What's Samuel? Not
I
Samuel.
for a second I thought he might have been dad. So I was like, either
Oh,
he's the dad, like either
Saul.
way, I
Saul
figured
Cartwright.
yes.
Saul Cartwright.
So I thought he would was either the father or Ashby. So I was like, she's royalty in either way, but we
Hmm.
just don't know it. Anyways. Sorry. Like this book was just so good. It was really, really,
It really
really
was.
good. I really enjoyed it. It surprised me how much I enjoyed it. And I'm happy I don't have a clue on what's going to happen next. And I hate that I have to wait until October because the anxiety within me to figure, like, I want them to. I'm
To
like,
be
how's
okay.
she gonna earn that trust back? Or is she I was
Yeah.
really proud of Verity because I'm thinking, okay,
Yeah,
she's
me
gonna run
too.
away. Like,
Hmm.
she's just gonna run away. So like her laying in bed and stuff, because like the royal cleanse was, I feel like that the first part of it with the Dukes, I mean, it's not great, right? She doesn't want it, but they do it, and at least she knows them, right?
Oh, with the princess filming
Oh yeah,
for
the
the Duke.
princes, sorry.
Hmm.
So the princes doing what they did during the royal cleansing wasn't,
Hmm.
like that's horrible, but at least she knows them.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Um, and but then with the rest of the frat doing what they, I'm like, how can you put her on a pedestal? How can you gift her? How is she supposed to look at these men every day, giving her a gift every Monday after what they did to her? And I get it, it's her punishment, but like I felt so incredible. It was like it's just like the story in the funhouse thing, like it just
Well, and they did something. I'm not Nick. Oh my gosh, Killer. Made story
yes,
in front of the whole
yes,
frat.
that's
And
true.
then Lavinia, they had to put on a show, but at the time, but like they didn't have a choice. And I think like she
Yeah,
knew it at the time, so it
yeah,
wasn't as bad. So I seem like it's like every book there's been some kind of public
public thing.
humiliation.
Well,
I
she
do feel
went
like this
through it
was the
twice though, because she had the
yeah
throning
the
and then she
throning.
had the
Yeah,
royal cleanse. And the royal cleanse I
that's
think was worse
probably
than the
worse.
throning.
Yeah, I think so because they're actually like right
Yeah,
on. Yeah,
you right on her. And it was
yeah.
just like, and 40
Mm-hmm.
something men
Mm-hmm.
doing that to you and then saying their little to the princess may you reign, like, oh.
Yeah.
And then but I liked that there was those scenes of her like laying in bed not getting up, like being done, like I'm like that. I liked that is naturally what someone would do.
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, she's either going to try to escape and it's not going to go well. And then I like how she decided to like, no, I'm gonna fight this because I have two choices: to leave or do this and make this better. So I
Mm-hmm.
really admire her for staying and being like, I'm gonna make this better or try to, right? And
Yeah.
I'm actually really happy that Ashby is her biological father, because at one point I was afraid that he was going to try
Mm-hmm.
with her. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna get in
Yeah.
trouble. And then when they said that the princes were gone on the tournament, I'm like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, he's gonna do things to her and that's gonna be awful. And then but then I was like, okay, he's gonna do them and like a prince is gonna find out and that's gonna be
Oh, the issue, the
the
conflict.
issue. But I don't
Like,
like how he's telling Wicker that he can break the covenant to do this and this and this. Like he's like telling him he can like cheat and
is he?
escort and
Because
stuff.
it sounded like he was it sounded like he was going to escort but not go all the way. Like he still
But
wasn't going to break the covenant.
after that event that he had Verity go to,
Mm-hmm.
Ashby was upset that I forgot her name, the one chick, Tracy,
Yeah.
Tanya T. It starts with a T.
Mm-hmm.
Tamara. I don't remember. Trudy.
That's
um, was
a lot of
upset that
two
he
names.
left early, and he said, "Well, some things she needs to be satisfied, or something." Like it alluded to the fact that,
It, yeah.
and
So
I was like, and
that
I
was confusing. But then they said it was said that she was going to be the escort for that auction. So I was like, does that mean that he said he wasn't sleeping with anyone else. So I'm trying to so I'm wondering if like he's still like selling him out but not letting him like deposit or something. Like maybe they're doing other stuff. I don't know.
maybe, yeah, because he was saying that, because he had to go back, and they never showed the scene when he
Hmm.
had to go back the next night. You remember, he's like, she's requested a private appointment with you on this day. So I want, yeah, maybe he's just doing stuff to her, but still, that's not okay. Like that really
Yeah.
bothered me because it's just like the
I
rummy in the shower thing. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
but like the fact, and he doesn't want to. I felt really bad.
Yeah, I got the impression that he wasn't though. I got the impression that like they were skating a line and he doesn't want to, but
Right. He doesn't want
like
to.
that he they weren't actually making him break the covenant. Like
Okay.
because that's the impression I got.
Okay.
But it was
I
still like
just,
crappy feeling.
it just, can we talk about each guy really quick?
Yeah,
Like, can we do it
yeah.
quick? I don't know.
I
We can do
love
it quick.
I was gonna say I love Wicker. I saw someone post something that like Wicker was getting hate or people weren't liking him as much, and I was like, oh, I think he's one of the most likable. I don't know. I really felt for him. I felt like he got the most vulnerable out of all of them. Like you didn't think he would get the most vulnerable, but I feel like overall, in reflecting, I feel like it was the hardest for him to get vulnerable, and he did.
Mhm. Yes. I've really felt bad for him because, he's known as this playboy and this flirt, but he has to be. Like
Yeah,
that's his mask, right? And
all
that's all
knows.
he knows because at 10 this
Mm-hmm.
started, which is awful. And that's what
Awful.
his father groomed him to be.
Mm-hmm.
So like I really felt bad for him, and I love and like you said, like the vulnerable part, and that's why he didn't want to look in her eyes, and that's why he didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
see her, because it's easier to just be detached to do these things. I just and he's like trying to hold it together, like he's trying to be good so Lex doesn't get punished, and he's trying to do like and he
Mm-hmm.
has to go perform here, and he has to go do this, and like that's all of them really. Like it was just wow, the
Yeah.
amount of pressure these dukes are. Oh my gosh, why do I keep saying dukes? The princes
Mm-hmm.
have to do. Um, I don't know who my favorite guy is yet, which surprises me because
Mm-hmm.
it rotated so much in this book.
Yeah.
They're all equal. I have a feeling Lex is gonna go down because he's so mad now.
So mad, and he was easy to like the most at first
I did.
because like
This is the
even
first
she
one I
was like,
really
oh,
liked.
he like they could fall like she could fall in love with him. he
Mhm.
he was like the gentlest and like the nicest.
Even
uh,
dancing at the
yeah,
masquerade thing, I was like, I like this guy.
me too. And
And
then
now
his
he's so mad,
drug
and I
issues.
hate that
Yeah.
he went on Scratch. He had to, but I
Hmm.
hate that he was forced to do that. It's gonna be I'm just so the counts. I'm so mad at them for making this thing.
Yeah, but however, I think counts are next, and that's gonna be interesting how they get resurrected.
Yes.
That's
That's
gonna
gonna
be
be
very
really
interesting.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
Um,
okay. But
and
yeah,
then
Lex, I felt
Paige,
for Lex.
oh, I felt for I really I just I love yeah, I felt for Lex. He felt like he was like had to be the leader. He felt like he had like the burden. And he felt like he kind of took a lot for all of them. I just yeah.
And the whipping, right? Like Ashby
Hmm.
knowing what to punish each person with. But
Yeah.
then I found it interesting that they all adapted to that, right? So it's like it's
Hmm.
their thing. So like Pace is comfortable-ish in those closed places. And he said how like he got a bad grade and he just like turned it in and then turned around and put himself in the dungeon. That was one of the last times he was put in the dungeon. And that's when like things got worse. When he messed up, then Lex was getting his punishment. So Lex
And
would
then
get
they,
punishment for him.
so he
Yeah.
was smart enough to use their guilt of like, oh, it might not bother you as much, or you might not show that it bothers you, but it bothers your brother that he's the one who put you in that situation. So that's some manipulative
Yes.
head games,
Yes.
and that just shows you who Ashby is.
Yeah. And Pace,
Hmm.
I felt for Pace. I liked Pace too. I'm like, I felt for him. At first, I didn't really like him because I was like, dude, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
it was like
I
it
liked the
wavered.
story, the history
Hmm.
they had there, and how she's like, I have no
Yeah,
clue. And I think
that
a
was
lot,
fun.
it was interesting. I'm like, how did you end up there just over like pictures? Like, that doesn't seem,
Hmm.
something else is going on there.
Yeah,
Um,
she was the catalyst for them finding his like data breaching.
yeah, yeah. It took a
Hmm.
while to get to that. And then when that came out, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
like
okay.
that makes sense with
Yeah.
him and the monitors and how much he cares for the bird. And
But Verity, I loved when she went in there. She's like, why is she always in here? It's
mhm,
unnatural for her to be in a cage all the time. It's unnatural for her not to have sunlight. And how she's like, take her down here. And he won't do it. And I'm wondering
mhm,
if he's like reflecting the bird to him.
mhm.
And so
Oh,
like,
mm,
and that's like, and it's so sweet how he's like getting like the the back of the hideaway scenes to show
mhm.
her and stuff. I'm like, that's really, he really loves this bird. I love her. I love how she steals the button. Um and like so, but I think Verity and that bird, I think Verity is gonna eventually like make that bird really happy. And
I
that's
think you're
gonna be
right.
like the catalyst to like winning Pace over or something. Like,
Yeah, or kind of coincide.
yeah.
Yeah, and with that, the garden that she's working on, and
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. And then with Pace, I do like when there's a guy that's like already been obsessed. Like Killer was already obsessed with Story, Nick was already obsessed with Lavinia, and then Pace was already obsessed with Verity. I just like that. I like when there's somebody who just like they hate you, but they like are obsessed with you. It's like a fine line.
Yeah.
So that's fun to explore. And
Mhm.
then like to kind of see him falter, like because he makes it seem like, oh, it's a project, or it's, I don't want to say revenge, but like, there's a lot tied in with her, but like you could see that he was starting to like really like let his guard down too.
Yeah.
um that's yeah. I'm very interested and very anxious for the next book.
Yes.
Like I like, because I like it when they're all a unit
Mhm.
and they're working against
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other evils.
I
And then you
agree.
got to factor a baby into it. Like, and we haven't done that before, where we're legit factoring in like are we going to like, you know, it's 3 books. So like is she going to have the baby in book 2? Is it going to be book 3? Like are they going to have a full on, like are they going to be still dealing with this once the
Because we were
baby's
in
born?
the second month, right? By the end of the book, we were like second
Yeah.
month.
Yeah,
And
'cause
she's
she
just
you
now
get humans.
pregnant.
It was yeah.
So I don't think, unless there's like a big time thing, I think she'll just be pregnant the whole time.
It could though. It could be like, they could like slide into a routine for months type of thing. You never know. Like it could be like, for months I barely saw them. They were just, in and out. And then,
True.
and then 9 months hits and you never, I mean,
That's
who
gonna
knows?
be
Who's to
so
say?
hard for her to carry, to have a baby, to be pregnant
Hmm.
and with a baby and not feel that. You're gonna feel that love to the baby, but to have the princes not
He's so hateful.
like all of it. The only person who cares is the awful man,
I
right?
feel like deep down that they care and they were showing little signs and they may hate her, but I feel like that might help bring them around. Well, see, that's a reason I hope that like before the baby's born, they figure things out because when we're doing this trope, you kind of want that like how Tristan was with Story when they were like when she was pregnant. You want that like father overbearing that care. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
so
Do you
maybe
think
that's
she's
a nice thing.
actually pregnant?
See, I'm if she's not, I'm gonna be so upset
Like, cause
because
I'm like, is she? Because I mean, she said she took 10 tests, right? But it's not
yeah,
a
and
Lex.
her handmaid helped her. I swear, if it didn't say that one little line, if it didn't say my handmaid helped me, I would think she was pregnant.
Right.
Because like the handmaid said, well, let's take the test. But I'm like, oh, what if
I think
they,
it's time for
yeah,
you to take a test. Yeah. And so that's why
but
I was like, they could fudge it,
but how
or
long could you fudge it with Lex being like having his little room down there, you know,
well,
like
she could fudge it
mm,
for now until
yeah,
Lex gets around to doing his thing.
yeah.
And
So it
so it
couldn't
won't
last
last
that long.
long. I think she is.
I think considering it's the princess story and how much they were depositing, like I feel like
But
she
those
has
were
to
such
be.
stressful moments. That's the thing, is like it
That's true.
there were so many times where I'm like, they should let her get drunk. That's how you do this.
That's so funny.
It's like if she just got drunk, she'd be pregnant the next day.
I think that's a very fair and valid point. That's so funny.
Like they're doing it all wrong. It's too stressful. Oh my goodness. Okay.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I just thought that's one
And
of those
who's
things
the
where I
baby
wouldn't
daddy?
be surprised. I would not be
Mhm.
surprised if it doesn't. I wouldn't be surprised if something happens and she miscarries.
Oh, I hope not.
I hope not too.
Mm.
I know, but I wouldn't be. I honestly, I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if any of the scenarios
Yeah,
happens because it's Angel and Sam.
true.
But I do hope that it is more of. I hope the next book it's as her pregnant, them figuring,
Repairing, coming together as
figuring.
a unit, and then the third is they conquer.
Yes,
You know, they topple a king.
yes, yes.
Topple a king. Because I
That's
feel
right.
like the second book's usually working out the issues, and the third book it's usually as a unit
Yeah.
toppling the king.
Mhm.
See, and that's like I'm like tracing back to like other books of being like, well, if it, you know, to try to make predictions, to try to forecast, which doesn't always
The
pan
thing
out.
is, it's really hard for me because of the three books. Like I
Hmm.
forget what happens in book one, two, and three. Like I just know
Hmm.
the journey. So like I'm like, oh, like with the Dukes. Like I'm like, when did they really start becoming like it was more the third book, I think. Right?
Well,
Because we gotta get Nick. We had to get Nick on his knees.
true. I feel like
And I
Nick
don't
was
remember
making
when
his
that
pendants
happened.
in book two. In book
Okay.
two, Nick it was like all about Nick making his penance for what he did in book
I did
one,
love
the
the
ending of book
finger.
one.
I loved
Yeah,
Lex gifting the finger. I thought that was so I'm like,
I
I almost
agree.
said romantic, and I'm like, is that darkly
And that's how
romantic?
you know you
Because
read dark romance when you
yeah,
think body parts are romantic
yeah.
in fiction.
Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, I finished this book, you guys, last night. I forgot
Mhm.
what time, like 1, 2 a.m. Um, and I'm still, I feel like I text Megan, finish the book, still processing, talk tomorrow.
Yeah. And I
And
woke up and I saw like I just finished the book last night too, my time around that time, and I was like yeah, thinking the same thing. I was like, I'm just gonna save it all for the year.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's still there. It is still processing.
Oh,
So,
the titles. Do we want to talk about the
oh yes,
titles? So
yes,
I went on
yes,
this
yes,
whole
yes.
thing because we all know, right? I hope we all know that the titles correspond with the names, right? So,
Hmm.
um, for example,
Lords of Pain, Killian Payne.
yeah,
Lords of Mercy, Tristan Mercer.
and Lords of Wrath,
Dimitri
Dimitri
Rathbone.
Rathbone,
Yeah.
yeah. So and then so forth, and then the Dukes are the same. So with
Yeah.
the princes, I messaged Megan and I went on this rant about before we got to it, I was like, Princes of Chaos. Who's Chaos? Because we know these are adopted sons. And I was like, what are their real names? Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
their real last names? And I could not figure it out. And I feel like it wasn't much longer after I messaged you that I read it. So, Chaos is with Wicker,
Because his father's Clive
Clive,
Caves or Clive.
Hayes,
They kept,
Kays.
yeah, they
So
kept mentioning his
yeah.
name so much in Dukes that you
Hmm.
knew was an important person,
Hmm.
even though they weren't alive. So
Right.
it makes sense.
Yeah. So, and I liked that we knew what they didn't know yet. Like I liked
Mm-hmm.
that we knew that the Baron King isn't who they think the Baron King is, and that we
Mm-hmm.
already know that Remy is a
Mm-hmm.
descendant. And then because like Ashby mentions that, so like the two descendants aren't worthy of the Baron, saying like he already knew this. So
Yeah.
I like that they're like, oh my gosh, we found this out, and everyone's like, oh, we already knew.
It's like, so did we. Yep. Yep.
um
That was
so
funny.
I liked that. But then oh, and there was another line, I have to say it. There was something about oh gosh, what it was like DoorDash pussy or something.
Oh
And
my,
I was like, I thought that was
yeah.
hilarious. I was like,
That
oh my
was
gosh.
hilarious when
Okay.
they rushed her to
Yes.
Wicker.
Yes.
That was really funny. That was a really funny
I
line.
liked that line. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next book is Princess of Ash. And so
So
we're trying to
so
remember who's the one
it
that
could
we
be
think
either.
possibly is a prince descendant. And I was saying I think it's Lux.
And I was thinking like Pace came to mind because of the scandal. And that was, something they got out of a torture victim. So who knows that like his mother might have been a princess and his father was,
Yeah, but
I
see,
forget if it was Western.
Lex said that his father was a failed prince.
Yeah.
So
So it could be either. It could be either. So the question remains, who is more closely tied to the Ashby line that they would actually have the last name of Ashby? So, I mean, maybe it would be Lex because it's like if it was a failed prince who was a male and it was like in the Ashby line. Or I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the mom didn't marry the father. I don't, well, for Pace. I don't know. It's, yeah.
I don't know, because Pace is, I think, a more of a mystery to us. I have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's where we're at now. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Okay.
I'm
Well,
excited to see who's going to be on the cover for sure.
mhm.
Those are always fun.
The covers are fun. Yeah, I'm not always one
Hmm.
for cover reveals, but like for this, I'm yeah.
Yeah.
And then
These
figuring it out
feel
after.
worth the reveal. Like these covers are like worth like the suspense.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because you're
Hmm.
like, who's the character? And then this one we'll be able to tell pretty quick who it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So like I'm yeah, but like figuring it all out. And you know that they have plans. You know that Sam and Angel have plans for us and that they have layers. And we still have two more houses after this. So yeah, like I'm
It's an interesting world they're building, especially with the whole reason Verity went into the situation with these monarchs. Is this video going to mean that the dukes are told about the monarchs and that why Verity went in there because they were sent that video? That there's war implications with that video. So there's a lot at play, and it's a lot in the overall arching
Mhm.
universe.
Do you
So, mhm,
I was wondering, like, there's the family dinners, and I was like, at some point, because you know how like the lords and the dukes kind of work together, but they don't show it as much. But they were
yeah,
quite a few times where like they would call each other during the Duke series, for
mhm,
like Wrath. How did you get her to submit and da da da, like so. I'm just waiting to see if like the princes are ever going to kind of, because Verity is from the Dukes, if they're
oh,
ever going to kind of work together, because
form
there's the
friendship.
new king of the Dukes and they're
Hmm.
different and they're going to be ran different. So I'm wondering if the princes, because of Verity, are going to like join family dinner at some point, or like see what it is, because she
See,
even talked
yeah.
about how family dinner is family dinner, and like it kind of
Mhm.
resonated with one of the princes of like understanding that sense of family. So, and he was kind of jealous that she had that and he only had like his brothers, like I got
Mhm.
that vibe. So like I'm just I kind of want to see that scene, even if it's like later on,
Yeah, me
but like
too.
of them all there. um
Yeah, of them interacting in a in
And then
royal fashion where maybe they're not besties, but there's kinship. And I
yes.
think that we might get that, even though Lex is so angry, with the fact that Lex and Remy are in that group together and they hold that sacred. I feel like that's one little thing of common ground
Mhm,
that they have
mhm.
that
True.
maybe that can get called on later. I
And
think
then you
something will happen.
have
Yeah.
if Wicker finds out about Remy, because
But
Wicker and Remy
are
well,
both
Remy
Baron heirs, I guess, but I don't know if they're related.
is
I don't
Remy
think
really though? Because like his dad's the current Baron, but so he's the Baron that took
that
the like
killed
that killed
his
the
father, probably.
right? So like are they so they're not or are
Well, they don't have the same last name. I mean, there could be some kind of relation there. I mean, between the Barons.
because
I
there's
mean, they
that
were
whole
both.
thing about Remy's mom. We don't know who Remy's mom is. It's like off. Remember we found out that
She's
she
like
was
in
off at
a.
like a facility or something.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Like, what if Wicker's mom was Remy's? Yeah, that's an interesting.
Because
But
if
I
you
don't.
look at their
Mhm.
pictures, and if you look, they
Wait, that's a
kind
good
of
point about.
similar.
Wait, that's a really good point, though. Wait, okay, wait. Hold up, hold up. You haven't said this before.
I
If
haven't.
you look at Wicker and Remy, you're right. They have like a similar
Some
hair color and facial structure.
similarities
That
going
would
on
be
there.
interesting if there was some kind of relation because they both come from a Baron line. Obviously, not the same father, but
Maybe the same
uncles,
mother,
cousins,
cousins, and like
half siblings. That's a good. I mean, it's not that far fetched. That's not.
so they could come together as a more family like in a way.
That would be interesting, especially because I don't know if they're still doing this, but I read somewhere like Angel had said once that like we weren't ready for Barons, kind of like I guess we weren't ready for Princes at first, and that like Barons would be last.
Mhm. I'm
So,
excited for Barons. I'm so
but it does feel like they're like Barons have been mentioned so much. It feels like they're gearing up for it to be next, and when counts are so quiet on but maybe that's why they need to rebuild counts first.
yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting to see, how it all goes.
Mhm.
And it just seems like they're toppling the old regime. So,
Mhm. Mhm. I love it.
yeah. I
I
mean,
love
I
that
love
this
it too.
started out for them. Like they wrote Lords as like a fun
Hmm.
thing. Like that's what they wanted to write, and they
Hmm.
didn't think it was gonna go anywhere. Like it what and then it did. And so now it's turned into this thing. Like it was just like we're gonna and that's what I love. I love it when authors like almost every book that I've really fallen in love with is a book that an author has said, this was for me. This was a passion project for
Passion
us. We did
project.
it for fun and we just did what we wanted to do. It wasn't to like whatever the new hype is. It wasn't what the readers wanted. It was what I wanted. And I took my time and I wrote it. And like look it like it turns into this big
Hmm.
thing of like everyone loves it because you can feel that like there's like a certain care put into it and like
Yeah.
that I just like and then you just look at like the lords and like you're reading the lords and if you like anyone who's just now starting it and then you go through it and you're like you can see the build up
Hmm.
you can see how there's like this it's just such a nice foundation and then like we have then the first story and now we're on to the like literally like it's just
Yeah.
I'm really appreciating and loving it, I guess.
Me too. It's a very well done world, and each series is definitely a very well done trilogy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, just you just can't go wrong. The way they redeem these dark characters
I
is
can't wait
just
for the redemptions.
quite brilliant. Yeah, I mean, and the fact is, like, I'm mad at them, but like again, like they've made me have a lot of compassion for these characters very early on. Like I like these guys and feel for them and understand their like lot in life
Mhm.
very early on, which I really appreciate about this
Yeah.
the series especially because you do get a little anxious when okay, this is going to be a dark one, but I felt like this was a little lighter for me, a little easier for me.
Yeah, there was something about it that made it more digestible.
Yeah,
Um,
that was yeah.
yeah, and I think it's because we understood them. There's no mystery. There's still mysteries, but like we
Yeah.
know these characters a lot more
Hmm.
of who they are and why they're the way they are. And I think that,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
think and I think also Verity kind of going, I think she's the first, like, I mean, Story was willing to, I think just being this kind of willing, having an ulterior motive from the get-go, like just her, the way she entered the palace, even though, like, of course she was still surprised. And I do think that part of her does want it. I don't think it was just all like for the monarchs. And I think there was a part of her that was raised to be royal, and she really
Yes.
did. Yeah, like it's both. So I think it was just like the way that it all aligned together, the way that the guys were, and then the way she was. I just, it all really fit well for me to make it like, I'm like, okay, like this is, I don't know, for
They
me,
fit. They fit.
they fit, and it was just a little easier earlier on, which I liked. I'm like, I'm here for this because I know there's going to be trauma, and there is trauma. So that was helpful. That was really helpful.
Do we know? Sorry, we should probably end the
Mhm.
episode. This is a long one, you guys.
Yeah.
Do we know what happened to Ashby's queen
No,
wife,
that's a good
the
question.
son? I mean, we obviously don't know what happened to Michael,
Hmm.
but then what happened to his mother?
His
Yeah,
princess,
yeah.
right?
So I,
Yeah,
hmm,
that's a good question. I would like to know, yeah, what happened to his princess?
mhm,
What happened to his son? Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And then and how, he had a baby, he had Vera, and like at what age too did they have, like, was Verity first, was she like after? Yeah, how does that coincide?
Mhm.
And with like babies meaning so much, did he just discover that? He seems to be pretty all-knowing though, so it's that'll be
How did
interesting.
they take the test and him not know? Well, because Pace wasn't there to monitor everything, because like Pace monitors a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, maybe they went into like one of the areas that didn't have cameras. That's a good question.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry. All right.
We could go on and on.
We could go
Yeah.
on forever, but we do not want to make this an hour-long episode, so we're
Yes.
going to stop. And I hope you guys enjoyed the book. And we will be reading Princess of Ashes in October. And we'll see you next time on the book over. Bye.
Bye, everybody.